Wow. Well, welcome. This is going to be my brief little tour of the Yavin IV Stronghold for Ruinous, um, Yavin Combat Arena here. It has been, I was going to joke and say it's been fourscore and some odd decades ago, um, back at the beginning of all time in March 2017, I was invited to Ruinous. And a few months after that, it was kind of comical. I'm like, hey, I did my stronghold. You want to come take a look? And sure enough, someone said, yeah, I'd like to take a look. Lo and behold, it was the guild leader. I kind of knew the name, but it was, I don't know. Sarah Quell seems pretty okay. Maybe I should invite them. And he came over and it's like running from room to room, going, wow, you've got this, you've got that, you've got the next thing. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Have helped this other person do a work on a guild stronghold. If you need any help, let me know. And within like a week or two, it's like, here, have the key. Help us work on Yavin. Anyways, well, if you notice this here, as a side note, I literally have disabled everything instead of hiding the UE, so all you can see is the awesome. And later you'll understand why I want these things, like healing myself. But here is Yavin, and when we first started discussing what Yavin's going to look like, some of the statues were already here. Naga Sadao up here was here, but there were different figures here. I believe it was Mar and Revan at the time, um, and a few other things. But what he had said is that he wanted something along the lines of some of the conceptual art that they had used for Droman Kos, not Droman Kos, but Korriban, that kind of art and that kind of style to recreate a Sith temple that was reclaimed by the Imperial Communication Service. So essentially, this temple, has been here since the time of Naga Sadao, hence one of the reasons we have his lovely little statue up there. But since then has seen, ownership through different hands. If you go over here, you'll see several other icons and idols of our good friend Revan that we all love and adore. Well, some of us love and adore. And one side note is, I hate soldiers. I hate soldiers with a passion because having to move these, because if you've ever seen the hooks, they're spaced from here, from the left, you just squeeze them out, like twice as wide as this. So once you understand, when you see all the soldiers in this complex, why I hate moving soldiers, but I am anal enough to keep doing it over and over and over again. Hi, Sith Lady, you're hot. Yay! Of course, there's fun things when you get to work on guild strongholds, because you get to have fun decorations that go pew, pew, that you don't normally get. Of course, if it's hanging for me, there you go. Whee! And this tune is not my decorating tune, that's why you don't actually see the Stronghold toolbar here. But as I was saying, Imperial Reclamation Service came back here and found a Sith temple that they needed reclaimed. We've got our guardians, and one thing I wanted to mention is when these were put here, they were more spread out, of course, but I had purposely moved them on both sides, so when you come up here, you don't have the freedom of movement to move from left or right. You can't, unless you run through them, or over them or something. They are meant to be confining. They're meant to squeeze you into the middle where you have to go between your guardians and the pew-pews and come running up here. And the first thing you get to be greeted with was something that was already here, which I totally adore, which is the Dread Master. Oh man, my rendering sucks. The statue of all the Dread Masters together. So that's pretty bloody impressive in my opinion. And with our secondary resident after the Sith being Revan, we have our lovely little Revan statues all over the place. For a while Mar was in here because Mar is awesome too, but when guild leader moves decos, you go away, decos changed, you come back, you see decos are changed, you're like, the guild leader has spoken, I shall not touch a thing. And there are subtle hints too when you run around the temple. There are additional things that you'll notice that aren't nearly as obvious as statues. I discovered later that the ambient machines like this really hardly produce any sound, but there's one or two of the temple whispers, one of the rain in the waterfall room, and things that are hard to see here, like the chipped burial urn. And going back to the influence of Korriban, you'll see chipped burial urns and other things and reliquaries all over the freaking place. I mean, they buried everyone. I'm sure even their slaves got buried, maybe in a giant heap in the dog pile because they got used to feed the Takata, but whatever. Sith temple benches, which are pretty cool. So, and of course, as the Imperial Reclamation Service moved back in here, you'll see that some of the technology came with it. So what might not have been technology here in the beginning decided to come back, and you'll find that even some of the basic decorations are pretty awesome to use in such circumstances, like the hanging vines and the moss that you can get from the vendor that they pretty much gift you with. And then, of course, other ones are harder to achieve because these, I believe, come from an operation. They're drops. They're the Yavin chandelier, and they are much, much harder to find and identify. Of course, the statues aren't easier, but things like the ambient music isn't as bad. Neither is this or the Blood Razor Fern. Yes, I know pretty much the names of all the decorations. I'm pathetic. But and you'll see that technology has returned. Yavin is problematic only in that it doesn't really have an ideal location for the GTN up front. Sure, you can put it on the ship platform, but if you want something that's functionally beautiful and theme-oriented, putting it up front can be problematic depending on your intent and design. And this looked a little different originally when it was here. It didn't have that should be the engraved reliquary in the Oriconian stock, Oricon. But the unstable arbiter sabers were still here. So you have the token reference to, not the token necessarily, yet far, far more than a token reference to the Sith and the worship. And you see the work area. And of course, everyone's favorite, hey, let's go and like spend plenty too much time shopping on the GTN. This is, of course, is two medium hooks on top of each other, or one medium hook, depending on the nature of the layout. And these are squished more together in format. You'll notice when you move them, though, their keys would be like, if you move this one to the left, the key might be over here, and then all of a sudden it'll reset after you hide hooks and come back. It'll line up perfectly. So you have all the fun stuff, and being that we're a bigger guild and we've been around a while, we've collected actually several of the funny little Jawas that give us all the things. And with the new MK4s just coming out, we have not yet added a droid here. But part of this is actually more of a memorial tour, because if Rishi comes to Ruinous, this stronghold is going to go. And of course, I am crying, having been, decorated half of it myself and being one of the main decorators, though definitely not the only one. That the guild leader and a bunch of other people had a lot of input on it, and I had, was soliciting input the entire time. But it was many, many, many hours. These things are not easy, and nor are they cheap. More pretties, and I'm gonna start a new video.